Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel, The Boss's Way. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a Dark Charizard deck in the Rocket On format. As we know, in the Rocket On format, there's plenty of coin flips, and Dark Charizard is a card that relies on coin flips, which can be frustrating. But you know, it's cool that you use a Charizard card. I really like the Dark mechanic, and I really like Charizard. It's one of my favorite Pokemon. So so I decided to make a deck for it. It definitely, I wouldn't say it's a good deck, but we can make it work reasonably well. As well as you can make, cards that depend on coin flips work. And I have a few ideas maybe of things I might change in and out of the deck as well. But this is kind of where I am at the moment with the deck. So to start off, like in most decks in Rocket On, we play 4 copies of Cleffa. This is the Celebrations Cleffa. I got my hands on a few of those just to jazz up some of the decks, and actually I ran out of old Cleffas anyway. And again, so it's your typical shuffle your deck and draw 7 cards with the baby rule. Cleffa's great when you're loading up your Charizards, your Dark Charizards, and you'll see later on we use Entei to do that. Entei ends your turn, so you want to have something out there that's difficult to deal with. So ideally, when you're charging up fire energies with Entei, you want Cleffa to be sitting in the active because it's just difficult to get through. And obviously it's great for consistency. So we play 4 copies of Cleffa. Okay, just see them on the screen there. Brilliant. 4 copies of Cleffa. Now for Charmander, I used to play 4 of these, but I've gone for a 3-1 split of this Rocket Charmander and the one from base set. So this Rocket Charmander only has 40 hit points, but it has a great ability, well, a fairly useful ability, Gather Fire. Once during your turn for your attack, you may take 1 fire energy attached to one of your other Pokemon attached to just not Dark Charmander, but just regular Charmander. So you can drop it down, take an energy off Cleffa, and he's ready to attack. 1 fire, 20 damage is pretty good. So I would say that this Charmander is better in a way than the base set Charmander here. But the reason why we play 1 copy of this Charmander is after playing a few matches against Dark Crobat in the format, these Charmanders just get gobbled up. They really do. They're almost as easy to KO as the Cleffas. And then you have 8 cards that are really easy for Cleffas in your deck or for Dark Crobat's bats to knock out. So I just play 1 copy of this Charmander here from base set because it's 50 hit points. It's a bit harder to get through. It just might mean you might get a Dark Charmeleon or a Dark Charizard set up and to be able to kind of counter attack with, because sometimes these Charmander just get picked off with Dark Golbat comes down and does 10, and then Dark Crobat comes down and does another 20, and then Devolution sprays, and if you have a few of them out, then they can easily do 40 damage just by pings alone before they even attack. So I've gone with a 3-1 split. Ideally I'd play 4 of the 40 hit point ones if I could get away with it, but I just don't think I can fully get away with it with Dark Crobat in the format. I also play 2 copies of Dark Charmeleon. So 2 for 20 is okay. Then Fireball's a really great move. Again, it's on a coin flip though. So 3 for 3 fire, it does 70, which is a huge amount of damage. But it's on a coin flip. So if heads, you have to discard 1 of the fire off, which is fine. To discard 1 fire to do 3 for 70 is fine. But if it's tails, the attack doesn't do anything. So sometimes you go against a Cleffa and you roll and you get a heads to get through the Cleffa to attack the Cleffa, and then Fireball lets you down on the tails, which can be quite frustrating. But when it lands, 3 for 70 is huge. 50 hit points, really low. So if you're evolving from this Charmander here, you're actually not going up at all in HP, which is something to note as well. All these dark cards, drawback to them is that they all have low hit points. Charmander, I suppose, it's worth noting, does 2 for 30, which can knock out a Cleffa as well. So that's something to consider with the other Charmander. We played in 3 copies of Dark Charizard. Nail Flick, 1 for 10, sometimes can be okay if you just come short of a knockout the previous turn. You don't want to be flipping coins again. But our main attack is Continuous Fireball here, so it does 50 damage. And then it's flip a number of coins equal to the number of fire energy attached to Dark Charizard. This attack does 50 damage times its number of heads. then discard a number of fire energy cards attached to Dark Charizard equal to the number of heads. So basically, if you have 3 energy on Dark Charizard, 3 fire energy, then you can flip 3 coins and you can do 50 for each. So you can potentially do 150, which is huge. One hit KOs anything in this format. But if it's 3 tails, you do nothing. Sometimes as well, if you're just knocking out a Cleffa and you have 2 or 3 energy on Charizard, you're hoping you only get 1 heads, and then sometimes you get 3 heads, and then you have to do 150 damage, lose all your fire energy just to knock out a Cleffa. So it can be a bit annoying in that regard, the attack. So while it can do huge damage, and that's the whole point of the deck, is that you can knock out your Blaine's Arcanines in one shot, you can knock out 4 Alligators in one shot. It's all dependent on coin flips. And then if they have Focus Band attached, then it becomes another headache as well. But I suppose the whole idea of the deck and the draw of the deck is that A, you're using Charizard, but B as well, it can one-hit KO anything, technically, when you get your flips right. So we played 3 copies of the Dark Charizard. Now, to accelerate on the Dark Charizard, I've chosen to go down the route of Entei. So, Entei is Pokemon Power Howl. When you play Entei from your hand, you may discard the top 5 cards of your deck. If you have fewer cards in your deck, discard all of them. If any of these are fire energy cards, you can attach them to any of your fire Pokemon in any of your choice. Using this power ends your turn. So, really good ability in terms of just accelerating a load of energy on. You can attach them to your fire Pokemon any way you want. But it does have to be fire energy onto fire Pokemon, which is fine in this deck other than Cleffa. But then it ends your turn. So you really ideally want to be having your Dark Charizard here, your Cleffa in the active, drop down your Entei, and then accelerate with Howl, and have Cleffa something awkward in the active for your opponent to deal with to buy yourself some time. Now obviously you could Howl and you could mill 5 cards off the top of your deck and none of them could be energy, but we play a high energy count to make sure that that doesn't happen. Like, I've never not hit an energy. I've commonly hit 1 or 2, but obviously it'd be great to be hitting 3, 4s and 5s, because then Charizard can do more damage. Then Searing Flames is 3 for 16. You discard 2 fire off Entei. So it's alright. I mean, it's guaranteed. There's no coin flips. You just have to discard 2 energy. And the great thing about Entei as well is that it only has a retreat cost of 1, which is really, really good if you need to pivot in and out. So that's our accelerator, and also Entei is our backup attacker in the deck. 3 for 60 is reasonable in this format. So yeah, that's it. We run 3 copies of Entei. And we'll put Entei there. So on to our trainers, we play Professor Elm. We play 4 copies of Professor Elm. Your shuffle, draw 7. Just to refresh your hand. You don't want to be binning too many pieces. I mean, Entei can bin really important cards in the deck with Howl. So, you know, at least Elm shuffles things back and you can use them again for later on. 4 of those. We play the Boss's Way. So we play 3 copies of the Boss's Way for our 2 copies of Dark Charmeleon and our 3 copies of Dark Charizard. We play 1 copy of Good Manners. It's just a great card. So if there's no if you have no basic Pokemon in your hand, you show your hand to your opponent to prove that you don't, and then you get to search your deck for a basic and add to your hand. Great for getting Cleffas or Charmanders, or for your Entei to get your Howl off. So just a really useful card. We play 2 Pokemon Breeders, which is essentially the rare candy of this format. So you can put down your Charmander, you can Breeder, and you can go straight into Dark Charmeleon, or sorry, Dark Charizard. Well, you can go into Dark Charmeleon too, but Dark Charizard actually is stage 2. So so that's why we play 2 Dark Charmeleon. I used to play 3, but then I found the deck was a bit slow getting into Dark Charizard. But then the more I play the deck, the more I kind of see that Dark Charmeleon sometimes is better to attack with than Dark Charizard, providing 70 damage is enough to do, because you're still dealing with a coin flip with Dark Charmeleon, but at least it's just 1 coin flip, where Dark Charizard, it's multiple coin flips depending on how many fire energy is attached to it. We have Pokemon Trader as well, which is just great for swapping, trading 1 Pokemon in your hand, search for it with 1 in your deck. that you want. So for instance, if you had like a Clef in your hand that you don't want, you can trade it out for your Dark Charizard or your Entei or vice versa. We played 3 copies of the Nightly Garbage Run, which lets us bring back Pokemon, Pokemon and energy cards, 3 of them in any combination, back into our deck from our discard pile. And we play 3 because Howl can sometimes bin really important Pokemon pieces like the Charmander line without meaning to, because you're hoping to hit energy. And also, Nightly Garbage Run gets your back your fire energy that Howl takes from the deck, and then you lose when Charizard attacks. So it's just a really great card for getting back our pieces that we lose with Howl and we lose with Charizard's attack. And also Entei's attack, because when Entei attacks, he, you have to lose 2 fire energy for that to happen. We play 4 copies of Scoop Up. So this is totally in the deck for Entei, so that when you drop Entei down, you Howl, then the next turn you can Scoop Up and drop it back down again. It helps us. That's why we only play 3 copies of Entei, because we play 4 copies of Scoop Ups to use Howl over and over again. Can be okay to pick up Clefas as well, maybe especially if you're against Dark Robot and you want to get them off the field again quick before they get sniped. So we play 4 copies of Scoop Up. Now, unlike Super Scoop Up, which is on a coin flip and lets you pick up everything, Scoop Up only lets you pick up the basic Pokemon. So if you were trying to do this with Dark Charizard, you just want to watch out, because it'll only pick up the Charmander, and then your Charmeleon, your Fire Energy, and your Charizard will all be discarded. So that's the pros and the cons, I suppose, to Scoop Up and Super Scoop Up. But because we're targeting Entei and Entei is a basic, it works fine for this deck. We play 4 copies of Focus Band. It's just a good card to play in this format. If your Pokemon's about to get knocked out by your opponent's attack, you flip a coin, and if heads, your Pokemon remains on the field with 10 hit points. So it kind of just gives you a second chance at hanging in there. And I think most decks in the format play 4 of them, they should. So it's a really, really good card, especially with Dark Charizard and the low hit points. 80 hit points isn't that much. Obviously, the annoying thing with Dark Crobat is that it does get around Focus Band, because it's not damaging the Pokemon with an attack, but rather with an ability or Pokemon power. So that's just something to watch out for. We play 2 copies of Rocket's Gym, which just gives our Dark Pokemon 20 more hit points and brings our Charizard up from 80 to 100. Also, it's good to just have stadiums in the deck to bounce annoying things like Chaos Gym or other stadiums that your opponent might be playing. We play 2 copies of Double Gust, just to bring up things that we might want to take knockouts on with Charmander, maybe things on the bench that don't have focus bands, or things that aren't Clefas, to get around them. So it's good to have 2 copies of that. I've played 2 copies of Energy Charge. So flip a coin, if heads, shuffle 2 energy from your discard pile into your deck. Again, just to get another way of getting energy back, because sometimes if you bin a lot of important Pokemon pieces, you want to take them back with the Nightly Garbage Run as opposed to energy. So energy charges gives you more recovery. Now I am debating maybe even cutting the energy charges and going solely with the Nightly Garbage Run, because there is 3 copies of it. So there is scope for maybe getting rid of energy charge and just putting in 2 more fire energy, because I do feel my fire energy count is a little bit on the low side, but we'll have a look at that now. So our fire, we play a total of, at the moment, 14 fire energy. Ideally, I'd like, I think 14 is too low. I think the lowest you should be going is 15, which is why I'm thinking of maybe getting rid of a energy charge and putting in a fire to go 15, or maybe even both to go 16. So that's something I'm kind of mulling over. I think 14 is a little bit on the low side. But that's kind of where I am with the deck. I think the first change I'm going to make is take 1 energy charge out for a fire and go 1 energy charge, 3 Nightly Garbage Run, and 15 energy, and see how that plays out. Another thing you could do is, and if that's really good, then I might go 16 energy and get rid of the energy charge. But it's nice having the option. Another thing you could do is you could play Light Flareon. It has warm up, which is for one fire. You can accelerate one fire energy from your deck onto one of your bench Pokemon. So it's really slow. It's just one onto a bench Pokemon. I mean, Charmander can move it onto itself if needs be, but it's just a bit slow when you're attacking with it. Now, of course, when you're accelerating with Entei, you may as well be attacking because it ends your turn. But at least with Entei, I kind of prefer, that you can be explosive and you can get maybe 2 or 3 attachments on. You can attach them anywhere you want. And you can hide behind a Cleffa and it's awkward for your opponent to deal with. Where with Light Flareon, you're attacking, it's ending your turn, you only get to accelerate 1 energy. Now, the 1 energy is guaranteed, where with Entei, technically it's not guaranteed because you could mill the top 5 cards of your deck and not find an energy there. But then you're leaving it Light Flareon kind of out in the active, and eventually it's going to get knocked out and you're going to lose a prize. And it's the same with Cleffa, but it's obviously a bit harder to knock out Cleffa. Light Flareon is 80 hit points, so it's not too bad. You might be able to get 2 or 3 light Flareon attacks off with warm up. But the problem is if you leave Flareon out there to try and accelerate, then you're giving your opponent free eeks if they have Cleffa in their active, and also if they have Cleffa in the active, you mightn't even be getting your warm ups off because Cleffa might stop it with its baby rule. So that's kind of like why I'm not going down the Light Flareon route. But it's just some considerations. Another consideration would be the Mercargo as well, from, I think is it Neo Genesis? One of the Neo sets anyway. There's only 2 Neo sets that are open to us in this format, Rocket On to Rocket Legendary Collection. So, and it has an ability that lets you, when it moves from the active to the bench, you can take a fire from it and put it onto the Pokemon that's it's switching out with. Which is alright, but then it has for 3 fire, it does 40 damage, and for every fire you take off it, then it does an additional 20. So you could technically take all 3 fires off it and do 100. But then obviously you'd be left with no fire on it and you'd have to accelerate it again. But again, it's just an idea because it's I suppose it's guaranteed damage. Whereas with Dark Charizard you can do big damage but it's never guaranteed. With Entei you do guaranteed damage, it's a flat 60, but Mercargo I suppose gives you the option to go, it has a base of 40 and gives you the option to go 60, 80 or 100 depending on how many energy you need to remove. So maybe tempted to put a 1-1 line of that in the deck. That's the same Entei and Mercargo combination that you'd see in Entei Mercargo in Neo-On, that format as well. So that's kind of where I am with the deck. Really cool to be using Dark Charizard. Definitely isn't a tier 1, tier 2 deck. It's mostly for fun. It's cool to use Dark Charizard. And that's kind of where I'm at with the list. Let me know anyway if you have played the deck yourself or if you have any other thoughts about the list or what you'd change. Pretty cool list, I think, anyway, and a bit of fun on TCGOne to try out. So that's it. Okay, thanks very much, guys. This has been The Boss's Way.